Joining us now from Santa Monica, California is David Robb. He's a veteran Hollywood reporter and author of Operation Hollywood, How the Pentagon Shapes and Censors the Movies. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
When we talk about the collaboration between Hollywood and the Pentagon, are we saying here that the Pentagon has effectively recruited Hollywood in its propaganda effort?
Well, yes, it's been going back since World War II. Hollywood and the Pentagon operate very closely together. When producers want to use the Pentagon's airplanes and ships and submarines, they have to give them the scripts. If there's anything in the script that the Pentagon doesn't like, they have to take it out in order to get their cooperation. But if you can still make a picture without the Pentagon's assistance, and you can say anything you want about the Pentagon.
Now, there is the financial aspect of making a movie. Of course, it's going to be much cheaper for producers to get this expensive equipment from the Pentagon rather than to design sets or build a replica of an aircraft carrier or something like that, right?
Yes, much cheaper, and some films weren't even able to be made because they couldn't get Pentagon assistance.
But the price to be paid for that, as you say, is that the Pentagon wants something in return. They do not want to be portrayed in any kind of negative light.
Yes, so you have to portray them in a positive light.
Does the Pentagon, or would the Pentagon overtly say to a producer, this is what I want changed in a script, I want it to reflect more positively on my men, I want this to be a reflection of our national policy, something as overt as that?
Yes, I've looked at thousands of pages of the notes that the Pentagon has sent on hundreds of films and TV shows, and they say that right out. They want things to be changed to make the Pentagon look in a more positive light, because that helps in the recruiting and retention of personnel.
Now, in your view, would all directors simply follow the diktat of the generals in the Pentagon? I mean, or would you get directors who'd say, no, they're going to have nothing to do with it? I'm thinking of people like Oliver Stone or Quentin Tarantino. You know, these people, very independently minded people, whom I would imagine would not tolerate that.
Yes, many directors, including Oliver Stone, have said no to the Pentagon. Francis Ford Coppola said no on Apocalypse Now, but then he said yes on Gardens of Stone. So it just depends on the picture and how bad they need military assistance. I
guess, and then the money factor comes into play as well there.
Always.
Is this interference or impact or influence by the Pentagon, does it impact in any way on the First Amendment in the United States, our right to free speech?
Well, the First Amendment, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that the government cannot favor speech that it likes and give rewards to movies that it likes, and not give the same benefits to speech that it doesn't like. But the Pentagon does exactly that. If you say something like that, they'll reward you with all the access to all their military hardware that you want. If you say something they don't like, they won't let you have that same access. So I think it is a violation.
Right. There are sort of elements of the big brother here when you talk about this. I mean, when a movie is being made, would the Pentagon, for instance, have a minder who's going to be on the set to make sure that its rules are followed?
If there's an agreement to use their equipment and they approve the script, they do have a minder on the script, on the set, to make sure that the film is shot the way you agreed to do it. And then once the film is done, it has to be shown to the admirals and generals back in the Pentagon before it's shown to the American public.
So there you have a situation. The movie's done, it's edited, it's ready to be shown to the public. It's first shown to the Pentagon, and the Pentagon can, under those circumstances, order cuts to the movie.
It's usually very rare. It's usually already been, it's usually, the screening is usually a formality. They make sure that it's the way they want it before it gets to the screening.
Has there been any concerted effort on the part of the movie industry and the part of Hollywood to challenge these restrictions or these conditions placed upon them by the Pentagon?
No, not at all. Phil Strube, who's been the long-time head of this film program at the Pentagon, was about to lose his job some years ago, and the head of the MPAA and some of the studios wrote letters saying, please keep him in the job. We like working with him and the Pentagon.
You know, at the end of the day, all these weapons, all this equipment that's owned by the Pentagon is actually owned by the American people. I mean, so when movies get to use them, they're actually tax subsidized equipment
That's
that
right.
they're
It's
using. So, you know, if we take that into account, shouldn't Congress step into the picture here? They represent the American people. Shouldn't Congress say, hey, listen, we need these guidelines to be followed?
Yes, well, it should, the office of the film liaison office should be written out of the congressional budget. They shouldn't be funding this.
What, in your view, would need to change? I mean, you know, you talk about legislation on the one hand, but what would it take?
I don't see it happening. I think the people don't really care, and the Congress doesn't care, and the Pentagon likes it, and the Hollywood likes it. It's a win-win for everybody except the American people who don't know that this is really happening.
David Robb, thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you.